Welcome guys to another episode of Pixl. Today we're comparing God of War 3 running on the RPCS3, which is the PS3 version, versus the PS4 version running on ShadPS4. A quick heads up guys before we start, this is emulation versus emulation, both running on PC, same capture settings, same PC, no filters, no mods. I'll leave all my specs and settings up in the description. Let's start with the graphics, because that's what everyone notices at first. On RPCS3, the PS3 version still looks impressive for its age. Lighting holding up, textures are solid, but you can definitely see the lower resolution in some areas. Now switching over to the ShadPS4 emulator, the PS4 version immediately looks cleaner, sharper textures, better lighting, and more stable shadows overall. Small details like armor, skin, and environments pop a lot more here. Performance is where things get interesting. On RPCS3, framerate can be really solid, but you'll see dips during heavy combat or big cinematic moments. On ShadPS4, when it's stable, it feels a lot more smoother. But since PS4 emulation is still early, you might notice stutters and occasional instability depending on the scene. Let's take a look guys at loading stability. Load times on both are pretty fast thanks to PC hardware, but RPCS3 definitely feels a lot more mature right now in terms of overall stability. ShadPS4 is impressive for how new it is, but you can tell it's being actively developed. Gameplay wise, both feel great with the controller. Combat is brutal, responsive, and still holds up insanely well in 2026. One thing I do want to point out on ShadPS4, you'll notice trees and foliage flickering in certain areas. It doesn't break the game, but it's definitely noticeable, especially when the camera moves. And lighting on ShadPS4 can be a bit more broken right now. Some scenes look incredible, but others have overblown highlights, missing shadows, or lighting that just doesn't behave correctly compared to how the game should look. Another interesting difference is in the water transparency, especially in the river Styx section. On RPCS3, the water looks a lot more transparent, so when you're swimming through it, you can actually see the souls moving underneath. On ShadPS4, the water looks a lot more solid and opaque, which kinda hides that effect. You can also see the difference in transparency effects, especially with Athena. On the PS3 version running on RPCS3, her transparent, ghost-like effect works a lot better and looks closer to how it's supposed to. On ShadPS4, she appears much more solid, which takes away from that ethereal look. One thing worth mentioning is pre-rendered cutscenes. On ShadPS4, some of these scenes behave really weird, only dropping about 3 FPS from 60, but I wouldn't say it's completely unwatchable. On RPCS3, those same pre-rendered cutscenes run at a stable 60 FPS with no issue. One downside on RPCS3 is the fog effects are missing in some scenes. You can really tell in the Gaia intro, where the atmosphere is supposed to feel dense and hazy, but instead looks a lot cleaner than it should. If you look closely at the performance tests here, RPCS3 on the left is actually using more GPU memory, more CPU, and more overall power. And you can see the system's running harder, even though it's getting less FPS in this scene. On the other hand, ShadPS4 on the right is pulling less power, running cooler, and still managing better performance with lower latency as well. I'll now leave you with the rest of the video using gameplay footage I captured so you can directly compare how both versions look and run side by side. you're all about visual clarity, PS4 and ShadPS4 is the winner. If you want plug-and-play reliability, RPCS3 is still the safer option. So which one's better? Honestly, it depends on what you care about. RPCS3 gives you consistency and maturity. ShadPS4 gives you better visuals and a glimpse at the future of PS4 emulation. Either way, God of War 3 is still an absolute masterpiece. If this comparison helped you, hit the like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which version you think looks better, RPCS3 or ShadPS4. This has been Kid Pixl. I'll catch you on the next one.